Hi everyone, my name is Logan from Devil Donut Scale Models, and today I'm going to be building the Spitfire Mark 9C from my Airfix D-Day Fighter set. So getting into the overview here, it's a very basic kit. This is the clear parts. It comes with 2 canopies and 2 side glasses. This is the first sprue. Here's the second. And finally, here's the fuselage. Moving into the build itself now. As any aircraft kit would go, you're going to start in the cockpit first. So first and foremost, I'm going to cut out the pilot here. As you can see, he comes in 3 parts. So right now I'm cutting out the main body and his legs, and there next to him are his arms. And I'll show you what he looks like all put together here in a second. Here he is all put together now. The only thing with this guy is I had to make sure his arms were sitting in the right place. And there were also some weird bumps on his back right here that I had to sand down to make sure he sat in the chair correctly. Here's the cockpit all finished up. There's not a lot of detail to speak about. It's really just the pilot and his seat. Moving on, we're going to start painting the cockpit. So I'm going with this RAF green from Vallejo. Since there's not really any details to work with on the inside, and any details that there would be is going to get distorted by the canopy, I'm just kind of throwing green in there. I'm not too worried about brush strokes or anything, because you're not going to really see anything inside the cockpit besides the pilot's head. Alright, so here is the cockpit all painted up. I did go ahead and paint what would be the control cluster black, as well as the bottom part of the side glass. Here you can see the pilots all painted up. I don't really know how accurate this guy is. Like I was saying, you're not going to see anything besides its head, so I'm not really going for perfection in here. Now that we've got everything painted up, I'm going to go ahead and close up the fuselage. So this was a pretty good fit, as far as I'm concerned, in my limited experience building aircraft. There wasn't any gaps like I've ran into with some of my other builds. Something I did here is I went ahead and installed the spinner for the prop, but not the prop itself, because I ordered some prop blur propellers from Prop Blur, right? So once we move into the painting phase, I'll go ahead and install it after it's all painted up. Alright, now that we're finished with the fuselage, we can move down to the wings. So right here, I'm cutting out the top portion of the wings. And I also threw on some green for the upper part of the landing gear bay. But after test fitting the retracted landing gear on the other part of the wings, I saw that you can't see past the wheels anyway. So once again, like I did with the cockpit, there's some green, but you're not going to see it anyway, so I didn't try too hard. Now that we have the wings all cut out and cleaned up, I clamped them together with some clothespins, and I'm just running some glue along the edges, trying to make sure we don't have any gaps or seam lines. Houston, we have liftoff. So here are the wings all put together. There is a pretty big gap between the fuselage and the wings down there at the bottom that I'm gonna have to putty up later. But with my experience, that's not really uncommon. As you can see here in a second, there's also a pretty big gap on the bottom side, right there, that is also going to have the putty treatment. But as far as I'm concerned, that's pretty light work. As you can see here, now I'm putting on the horizontal stabilizers. And I'm trying to do a good job here of actually gluing it in, because the last airplane that I made, my BF-109, I managed to get all the way to the weathering stage, and as I was applying the oil wash, this stabilizer right here just snapped off. I had to glue it back on. But moving on to the machine guns now, when I was putting it into place, it was kind of stretching out the plastic on the wings. You'll see here in a second. You can see there's some stress on it, but it's in place, and it didn't break anything, it didn't deform it, so hey, it's a-okay for me. Moving on to the radiators now. Airfix made this pretty dummy proof with the installation. So right now I'm going to cut them out, clean them up, and you'll see the two giant nipples down there on the bottom. Like, you can't mess this up. It was pretty simple. I have no idea what this thing is, so if anybody knows, if you could let me know in the comment, I'll be a smarter man for it. I do know what this is because I'm really good at breaking it off. As of right now, this is the only aircraft kit that this pitot tube has not broken off at some point in the build process. But I still have time to break it, believe me. So here's the canopy all masked up. I didn't film any of this because it was ridiculously tedious, but I'm happy with it. Something that my dad taught me when I was in high school was that when you're painting something, you spend 80% of the time prepping and 20% of the time actually painting it. So I wanted to make sure I did a really good job here because I think the canopy frames make or break the model kit. But here I'm just I'm gluing it up with some evergreen canopy glue from Hobby Lobby. It goes on white, dries clear, and it gives me a good work time. So I'll throw it on, I'll put the canopy on, and then I'll take a Q-tip and just clean up the excess, and it'll also fill any of the gaps that there might be between the model and the canopy. But with this kit, I didn't have that problem. It was a really good fit. Last thing here before we call this build complete, I'm just throwing in some Vallejo acrylic putty in these gaps that we were talking about earlier. So I'll throw it in and I'll let it sit for a second, and then I clean up the excess with a Q-tip. So I'm just throwing it in the top here, mostly along the fuselage, and then that big old crack in the bottom. Right there. And this is the completed build. That'll be all of it. So this is my first entry for my D-Day fighter set, which is it's a set of 5 aircraft. So my next video will be me painting this thing up and putting it on the stand. So if you want to see the entire series, go ahead and subscribe, and I'll be pushing it out just as quick as I can make them. So this is my first YouTube video that I've ever done, and this is the biggest video I've ever had to edit. So if you have any tips, tricks, or suggestions for the model making or the video editing, go ahead and leave a comment so I can make these videos better in the future. But without further ado, I want to thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed it, go ahead and leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Also, I am on Instagram at devil.donut.